Whoa, is this on? Maybe not. Oh, there it goes. Hi, my name is Annabelle Edwards. I'm a senior at Jenks High School, and today I'll be speaking on the mental phenomenon known as the theory of the law of attraction. In my own life, I've used the law of attraction to take my once always negative life and turn it into a positive life with an environment to experience joy and gratitude in ways I never thought existed. My goal for today is to not come up here and sound the smartest, or to come up here and throw science in your face, but to simply demonstrate why many people believe that the law of attraction is more than just a theory. If you were to ask me 1 year ago to describe my life in one sentence, the answer would be something like this: one bad thing after another. If a bad thing happened to me, I mean, of course it did. The bad that this world had to offer, it followed me. I knew it did. I didn't know if it was a curse or a punishment, or if I had done something to deserve the life that I was given. I sat in a pit, constantly sorry for myself, and was constantly so focused on the bad things in my life that I didn't even realize the blessings that I had. I mean, my parents were divorced, and I suffered a horrible family tragedy at age 10. I ended up losing my sister in a car accident, and I also ended up losing my stepbrother in that same car accident. As you can imagine, that caused 2 holes in my heart that will never be filled. I was constantly negative, and I constantly thought the world was against me. I figured that a rain cloud followed me, unavoidable, and it was constantly ruining my life. I figured that if something this bad had to have happened to me, then the entire world must be against Annabelle Edwards. This mindset was poisoning me each and every single day. I needed a mindset change, I needed positivity, and I needed it really, really bad. That was then when I realized that with the help of the law of attraction, positivity was at my fingertips, and the amazing life I always wanted was within reach. Now, you might be wondering, what is the law of attraction? The law of attraction is the belief that positive thoughts bring positive outcomes into a person's life, while negative thoughts bring negative outcomes into a person's life. Or, in other words, it states that like attracts like. Many people assume that our thoughts have no power and no meaning, that whatever we think or even whatever we say has little capability of affecting our lives. However, in the laws of science, this is incorrect. Each word, each organism, each person has their own levels of frequency and vibrations. I mean, for example, take matter. The thing that makes up our entire universe, at its core, is energy. Quantum physics has proven this, which means that even a still-looking object has vibrative subparticles. Albert Einstein, in his genius brain, said, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you can't help but get into that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics." So, in other words, you yourself are made up of energy and matter. You yourself are putting out a frequency right now, no matter how still you think you're being in that chair. And that frequency is constantly connecting with those around it. Now, to further understand how this works, I studied the laws of frequency. That was then when I came across constructive and destructive interference. Constructive and destructive interference is when you have one wave of frequency and it has a certain amplitude. And that wave of frequency is going and it matches this wave of frequency over here. When they connect, they double in size, being twice as big as if they were alone. Destructive interference is when you have one wave of frequency and it has a certain amplitude or a level of frequency, and it tries to connect with this one over here, but their amplitudes or their frequencies don't quite match up, and instead of combining, they end up just canceling each other out completely, representing destructive interference. Now, UConn uses 2 speakers to demonstrate this study in a very well way. If I were to place 2 speakers right here, and they would be an equal distance away from me, I would look out and I would hear a sound 2 times as loud as if they were to play the amplitude out of both speakers. The waves would be in phase, and this is representing constructive interference. Now, if I were to take one of those speakers and move it closer to me or move one of those more backward, I would stand here and I would hear nothing. The waves would be out of phase, and this represents destructive interference. But to further understand how this works, I wanted to see how this affected humans emotionally. And that required me to come across Emotional frequency. When I came across emotional frequency, I came across a study that took place in Germany. This study took thousands of volunteers and put them in what is called a Faraday cage, which sounds absolutely terrifying, but is completely harmless. The Faraday cage is what you would imagine to be just a huge metal box. But this metal box actually creates an area with no waves of frequency, no outside waves of energy, no microwaves, no nothing. So that whatever you put in there, you can measure the frequency being emitted from that person or that thing. So after the researchers put those volunteers into the Faraday cage, they used what is called the scale of positive and negative experiences to pinpoint what emotion that person was feeling. They were able to pinpoint that emotion, and then they were able to use the Faraday cage to measure the exact frequency of that emotion that they were feeling. And after many emotions, many volunteers, many hours later, the conclusion that they came to was that the emotion that creates the most high level of positive frequency was authenticity. Now, to define authenticity, authenticity is, of course, when you're being authentic, but it is when what you say is not only what you say is true, but you truly believe that what you are saying is true. They also came to the conclusion that positive emotions like joy, happiness, etc., those created positive high levels of frequency. But negative emotions like fear, anger, sadness, the bad ones, those all created low negative frequencies. Now, did we really need a cage to figure this out? I don't know about you, but have you ever been around somebody and they are so negative that you can almost feel their negative energy coming off of them and onto you? I know I have, and I know I've probably been that person as well. Or have you ever wanted to go to school sad or gone to an event angry at something, but then that person that just radiates such positivity and joy changes your entire day? I know I have. So, of course, there are many people who believe in the law of attraction, but some of the most impressive include Olympic athletes. One of the Olympic athletes I came across was a man named Zarnell Hughes. Zarnell Hughes is a British Olympic sprinter who correctly predicted 2 of his running times before his race, and he credits it all to the law of attraction and visualization. Visualization works because the athlete or the person pictures themselves succeeding. They picture the best outcome and they speak it into existence. They visualize what their peak performance looks like, and they convince their mind that that is the outcome that is going to happen. Zarnell Hughes used his authenticity to convince himself and make himself believe that those times could happen and he could perform his best. Some might call it coincidence, some might call it an accident, but Zarnell Hughes truly believed that the law of attraction and visualization willed those numbers into reality. Now, there are many other people who believe in the law of attraction, one of them being Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey stated, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe." Or Steve Harvey, one of the most influential hosts of this generation, said, "If you're negative, you're going to draw negativity. You're positive, you draw positivity. You're a kind person, most people are kind to you. If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand." Now, I could come up here and name more influential people, more athletes, more celebrities who believe in the law of attraction. But when I got interested in this topic, I wanted to take a more personal approach. Some of those people included my best friend's family. We were sitting around and I was talking about the frequencies and the constructive and destructive interference, and it came to the point where her stepfather said these words, "Your perception is your reality." Man, your perception is your reality. That was then when I realized that the science, the research, the frequencies, it was all there, but it really is quite simple. If you project positivity, positive things will come back to you. If you project negativity, negativity will come back to you. Your perception is your reality. How you view your life is how your life is going to feel. If you always look for a red light, then you're going to start expecting them. If you always expect negativity and look for negativity, I promise you will be able to find it. Speak out what you want to happen. Truly believe that good things will find you because your frequencies exist and your vibrations are felt. Be authentic. Once I learned to convince my mind that positive things can happen to me, I was then able to start looking for and find those positive things. You might have always thought that your thoughts went unseen, but I hope after today, you may have opened up your minds and your hearts to the fact that that might not be the case. Thank you.